I read David Pecker's testimony in Trump's New York criminal trial, all 1 billion pages of it, so that you don't have to. Who is David Pecker, you may ask? He is the chairman, president, and CEO. He was the chairman, president, and CEO of American Media Incorporated from 1999 to 2020. The amount of times, you guys, that he clarifies that he was in fact chairman, president, and CEO is so many. It's so many times. Other fun facts about him. He looks, I feel like the Monopoly Man without the monocle, but like the Monopoly Man. And he's good friends with Donald Trump. He wants you to know that even though they haven't spoken in years and he is testifying against him in criminal court, he does still consider him a close friend. But before we get to his questioning by the prosecution and then the defense and the prosecution again and the defense again, a quick little recap of why we're here. Donald Trump is charged with 34 counts of falsifying business records. Essentially, he pretended to pay Michael Cohen for legal services when he was instead reimbursing Michael Cohen for a hush money payment that he'd made to Stormy Daniels. And then there's 34 pieces of paper wrapped up in that. And those are the 34 charges. The prosecution starts off by going over like who David Pecker knows. He's known Donald Trump since the late 80s. He's known Michael Cohen since I think 2000. They ask him about Dylan Howard, who's like an ex-editor-in-chief of some of the publications that AMI had. But anyway, David Pecker, Donald Trump, Michael Cohen, they've all known each other since the turn of the century. And in 2015, when Donald Trump is running for president, they have a meeting together. It's the meeting. And at the meeting, they decide that David Pecker can help Donald Trump get elected to the presidency by doing 3 things. First, he's going to publish positive stories about Donald Trump. He's already doing that. That's good for Donald Trump. He says it helps him sell newspapers or tabloids or whatever. Second, he's going to publish negative stories about Donald Trump's opponents. Also, good for Trump, good for the campaign, and apparently it's going to help him sell more tabloids. And third, David Pecker is going to act like the eyes and the ears of the Trump campaign. He's going to catch negative press and squash it. This is the most interesting prong of the 3-prong plan because it doesn't sell product for AMI. It doesn't move tabloids or newspapers or magazines. It just benefits the campaign, which they're going to return to that through all of the days of questioning. This is also where we get David Pecker saying that he knew there would be negative stories from women about Donald Trump because he was widely known as the most eligible bachelor of the time, which is, it's a time when he was married to Melania. And then the prosecution starts to hit on this idea of like, was Michael Cohen a part of the campaign or not? And David Pecker is like, officially no, but definitely yes, he was. Later, like many hours later into the next day of testimony, David Pecker calls Michael Cohen Trump's fixer. Then we start talking about, you know, the doorman. You've already heard it like a million times. It's this guy who comes forward, says that he's got a story about a love child that Donald Trump had with a mistress out of wedlock. David Pecker is like, okay, I'm going to buy the story for $30,000. Turns out it's not true, but he's paid for it anyway. And the story is dead. Nobody pays David Pecker or AMI back for this $30,000 spend. It's just essentially a campaign contribution. And then we get to Karen McDougal, the first like really interesting hush money moment. She's an ex-Playboy model. She's trying to sell a story about an almost year-long affair that she had with Donald Trump that Dylan Howard goes out to interview her about and is like, yeah, it seems true. But Karen McDougal doesn't really want to publish her story, right? She's got an attorney named Keith Davidson. If you are seeing Pete Davidson in your head, me too. I don't know how to help it. Anyway, her lawyer, Keith Davidson, is like a standard source of Dylan Howard's. He reaches out about the story and he's like, look, she doesn't really want to tell the story. She just wants money for it. And also she wants to relaunch her career. So she wants like a column and a cover. And David Pecker is like, I think we should give it to her or else she is going to leak this information. And then Michael Cohen is like, well, you should give her the money then. David Pecker is like, I don't really want to spend that much money. But Michael Cohen really pushes. He's like, we're all friends here. You're definitely going to get paid back. And David Pecker says that he believes that by paid back, he means that Donald Trump is going to pay him back for helping out the campaign. So he puts together this contract where Karen McDougal signs over her life rights to AMI, which essentially means she can't give interviews to anyone else about this situation. She can't write a book. She can't go on a press tour. None of that. But she is going to be on covers. She's going to write articles. They're going to hire her ghostwriters. She's going to try and relaunch her career by not talking about her affair with Donald Trump, I guess. So now the quarter is going to come to a close. We're going to have to file financial documents soon. And David Pecker really wants to be paid back. So he talks to Michael Cohen and he's like, look, Karen's going to be on the cover of stuff, etc. I value all that to be worth about $25,000. What I need from you is $125,000. Michael Cohen sets up, I think, like a whole other company to funnel this payment through because they don't want it coming out of the Trump board because they don't want it to look, you know, illegal. This part of the questioning is really funny because the prosecution is like, don't tell us about anything you discussed with your lawyers because that would be privilege, but did you talk to your lawyers and decide that it was unsafe to participate in this whole reimbursement of the $125,000 thing? And David Pecker is like, yes, I did. I talked to my lawyers and I decided it was unsafe. So now David Pecker and AMI are out $180,000 and the Access Hollywood tape drops. Everyone at the Trump campaign, very nervous, very upset about it. Then Stormy Daniels starts shopping her Donald Trump story, David Pecker, eyes, ears. He catches it and he tells Michael Cohen about it. Michael Cohen is like, who is going to pay for this? And David Pecker is like, certainly not me. Couldn't be me. It's not going to be me. And Michael Cohen is like, you know, I haven't even gotten my bonus this year. And David Pecker is like, I don't want to discuss this any further, but if I was you, I would definitely buy it. I don't think it's going to be good for you guys. And Michael Cohen does what he does. There'll be another video. Donald Trump gets elected president, and afterwards, David Pecker is invited to the White House and told he can bring whoever he wants. Hilariously, my favorite part of this is that his wife is like, no, I don't want to go to Washington. But he does bring like business associates. They go to the Oval Office. They take pictures with Donald Trump. Donald Trump, I think, walks with David Pecker like from the Oval Office to dinner by the Rose Garden and is like, thank you so much for all your help. And David Pecker is like, I understood that to be about, you know, the stories that we squished for him. Now we flash forward, it's 2018. Karen McDougal goes on Anderson Cooper. Then Stormy Daniels goes on Anderson Cooper. Donald Trump, Michael Cohen, not happy. Then the FEC, the Federal Election Commission, sends a letter to AMI and essentially David Pecker. So David Pecker makes the deal that gets us here today, which is that he will tell the state of New York everything in exchange for immunity. And then we get to cross-examination, which also starts with David Pecker reminding everyone that he was the chairman, president, and CEO of AMI. The defense's first line of questioning essentially argues that David Pecker did everything that he did in order to make AMI more money. Then the defense is like, you know, Mr. Pecker, you have purchased and squished stories for your friends before, you know, the Planet Hollywood guy, Tiger Woods, Rahm Emanuel, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Then the defense goes down this line of like, these have been some pretty hard questions, right? I mean, it's pretty hard to remember these things that happened so long ago. You're probably misremembering everything, don't you think? And then he's kind of like, you know, of course you're telling the prosecution what they want to hear. I get it. You wanted immunity. You wanted your newspaper business to make more money, and you needed to tell them what they wanted to hear to get all those things, right? Then the defense guy is like, we can all agree that Michael Cohen is a pretty sketchy guy, right? And that's pretty much it. That's kind of the gist of his whole argument. Now we have redirect. The prosecution is back up, but we're getting close, I promise. And he's like, okay, first of all, we can all agree that Michael Cohen did in fact work for the Trump campaign. Like, he worked for them. He was working on campaigning for Mr. Trump, right? And David Pecker is like, yeah, I mean, that's sort of what I understood to be the case. And then he's like, wouldn't you have made a lot of money selling Karen McDougal's story, like putting that in the newspaper? And David Pecker's like, yeah, probably I would have. And then the prosecution is like, so the reason you didn't put it in the paper is just to benefit the campaign. And David Pecker is like, yeah, which is illegal, you know, because corporations aren't allowed to collude directly with campaigns or candidates. They have to work with super PACs. And then the prosecutor is like, did we ever ask you to lie? At any point in this process, in any of the many interviews you've had with the many people, did we ever ask you to lie? And David Pecker says, no, nobody ever asked me to lie. They just told me to be truthful. Then we get to the recross, which is the defense's last turn in this whole bit. And they're like, you know, Karen McDougal was a celebrity, right? Mr. Pecker, that's why you gave her money to be on the cover of your magazines and write her little columns. And David Pecker's like, well, I wouldn't really consider her a celebrity. And then the attorney asks David Pecker if like he agrees that Donald Trump is like a family man who loves his family. And he starts going down this whole like family man line of reasoning that the state objects to. And then the defense is like, okay, that's fine. We're done. That's it. That's all we have to say. And the next witness is Rona Graff. How are we feeling? How much stamina do we have? Should I do that one too?